Hello, my friend. I'm so excited to dive into this week's podcast episode for you on this week's astrology. Oh my goodness, we have a powerful full moon in Taurus happening this week. We also have Mercury Retrograde beginning at the end of this week. So in this week's episode, I'll be diving deep into this full moon chart for you, as well as the transits. I will also be sharing why looking at your birth chart really sets you apart from other businesses and why this is so important in creating a stable foundation for it, and what works for you might not work for someone else. I will then end off this podcast episode with a tarot reading of what energy to embrace, what energy to let go of. So let's just dive right into it. Starting off with November 4th, we have Mars entering the sign of Sagittarius, and this is going to change things up when it comes to how we work and date. So just keep this in mind, because with Mars and Sagittarius, we're going to feel a bit more adventurous. We're going to feel a bit more passionate and driven in terms of our excitement to find out, to expand, to grow. When it comes to work, this could look like wanting to present more of your work. This could look like getting opportunities to travel for work. This could look like wanting to really grow and take more classes to better the work you do. And when it comes to dating, this is a very flirty energy. This is a bit more adventurous. This is a bit more passionate. I will say Mars in Sagittarius loves to have fun, so that will be a big priority when it comes to your work and dating life. So keep this in mind. I think people are going to get a bit more flirty. I think people are going to be a bit more bold in terms of asking someone out. So I think this is actually a really fun energy. Just consider with this energy that people might not be fully ready to settle down, or people might need more time to fully commit. So be aware of this, because I think people are going to just want to have more fun. Now on November 5th, we have a full moon in Taurus. This is pivotal. This is huge. This is the energy we're feeling all week. And I personally really love this full moon in Taurus. I think we're going to get some really lovely surprises with this energy. However, the thing to be aware of when looking at this full moon chart is on November 4th, we have Mars in Sagittarius opposing Uranus in Gemini. So we're going to be feeling that energy with this full moon. And this is uncomfortable. This is something shocking happening, especially when it comes to friendships or travel. This could also look like something surprising happening at work or your dating life. Someone could unexpectedly get upset about a situation, so just know that you might have to maneuver and manage this person. You could unexpectedly get upset or angry about a situation. There's something here that is very unpredictable. So be aware of this energy, because someone could be on edge during this full moon. However, aside from this, there's some really lovely energy with this full moon in Taurus. This is a full moon in Taurus where we do not have Uranus in Taurus. Yes, Uranus does move into Taurus on the 8th, so we do have a few days before this takes place. However, we haven't had a full moon in Taurus without Uranus in Taurus for quite a few years. So this full moon feels a little bit more stable in certain respects, and we're getting some really good closure. We're getting more clarity around a financial situation. We're getting more clarity around some physical objects or food or anything to do with real estate. These can be some major themes. Yet what's really lovely about this full moon is the ruler of this full moon is Venus in Libra. So Venus is in its home sign. This is super lovely. The moon is exalted in the sign of Taurus, meaning that it loves being here. So even though there's this unexpected situation that can be a bit shocking, it could potentially give you a breakthrough of what you need to change in your work or dating life. And ultimately, I do see this full moon kind of giving you some clarity around a relationship. And this honestly can feel very healing. This full moon takes place at 13 degrees of Taurus. Keep this in mind. So if you have any planets around 13 degrees, it will impact you more. Now, another thing to be aware of is, although Venus is in its home sign, Venus is also making a square to Pluto in Aquarius. So there can be a relationship with this full moon that's being a bit more manipulative, a bit more controlling. You could feel like a secret is revealed around a certain relationship. So this is quite interesting. However, I think you're going to handle it in a great way. Yes, some anger can arise with Mars opposing Uranus. However, I really see this full moon as just finally letting go of something that's been on your mind. You're letting go of something that has been holding you back materially. So maybe you're decluttering your home. This is a great use of your energy. Maybe you're budgeting. Maybe you're paying off some debt. Maybe you are asking for a raise. This is a great use of this energy. Now, what's also taking place with this full moon in Taurus is we still have Jupiter in Cancer in a trine to Saturn in Pisces. So our spiritual partnerships, our emotional relationships are being very supportive. We're feeling more growth oriented. We're feeling really fulfilled in terms of listening to our intuition. So listen to those nudges, because the emotional work you're doing, the inner work you're doing, is going to pay off long term. What's also really interesting about this full moon in Taurus is this full moon is in a sextile to the North Node in Pisces, and this is helping us with getting to where we want to go this lifetime. We're feeling more of this calling to take action. This is more of a silent hum of how to align to where you want to go, especially when it comes to emotional partnerships or spiritual partnerships, or even what you're doing for the collective energy. Now, Mars is in Sagittarius and Mercury is in Sagittarius, and they're both making a sextile to Pluto in Aquarius. So we're feeling this really lovely support when it comes to our community, our friends. We're feeling a bit more passionate, a bit more driven. We're feeling like we're speaking our mind with our community and friends, and that's invigorating us. That's actually showing us, okay, I have more support than I think. Maybe someone is reaching out to you, or you're making plans to go to a community event, and this feels very exciting. This feels very empowering. Now, Jupiter is still in a square to Chiron and Aries, so we're still going to see some old wounds around our sense of worthiness come up right now, especially when it comes to being seen and recognized, especially when it comes to how we are seeing ourselves and our identity. Keep this in mind. Again, it's coming up for us to heal, and it can really shine a light as to what are you still holding on to that you still need to let go of. Now, I also really love that the ruler of this full moon, Venus in Libra, is also in a square to Jupiter in Cancer. So this is giving us a bit more luck, a bit more opportunity. Yes, it can feel a little bit overwhelming. You could feel like a lot of relationships are contacting you and you're getting opportunities, or you're just getting a lot of messages from people. Yet I do see this energy as being very beneficial in terms of seeing the support you have with your community, with your friends. Just be careful of burnout with this energy. So overall, we still have some very lovely support with this full moon in Taurus. We have Uranus still in this trine to Pluto in Aquarius. We still have Uranus in a sextile to Neptune in Pisces. And we have Neptune in Pisces still in a sextile to Pluto in Aquarius. So we're feeling this spiritual pull to connect with more people. We're feeling this spiritual pull to be creative, be artistic, connect with our friends, connect with people in our community, and also just see each other in a different way. See how we all connect. If you want to manifest for this full moon in Taurus, I am hosting a full moon in Taurus celebration with the Moon Sign Creative Community. We are going to be doing a money manifestation ritual, which is perfect for this energy specifically because Taurus does rule over the material world. So this is taking place on Tuesday, November 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Replays will be available if you can't make it live. I'll leave a link to that down below if you want to join us. And honestly, I've seen some amazing results with the community manifesting more money in their business, manifesting more money in terms of pay raises. So if that's something you want, then I can't wait to see you there. Now on November 6th, we have Venus entering the sign of Scorpio. This is a huge shift, okay? We're gonna feel a different energy when Venus enters the sign of Scorpio. Venus is traditionally uncomfortable in the sign of Scorpio, so take note of this because when it comes to love and money, things can feel a bit more secretive. with this energy. We could feel like it's a bit harder to communicate how we feel about another person. We could feel like things can feel a bit more intense when it comes to relationships. We could feel this strong pull to invest in things that are very different from what society really sees, such as astrology, tarot, or just doing manifestations. If you are a Libra rising or a Taurus rising, this will greatly impact you more because Venus is your chart ruler, and this will of course affect Scorpio placements a lot more as well. I did go through the energy of the month for each of your signs in my VIP horoscope, so you can check that out down below. Honestly, those are super in-depth if you want your horoscope for the month ahead. If you want to really understand how this Mercury retrograde is going to affect you, then this is for you. On November 8th, we have Uranus leaving the sign of Gemini. So we just had a sneak preview of Uranus in Gemini this year. This is really great to note. Yes, we will have this transit again next year. So we're moving back to Uranus being in the sign of Taurus. And again, this is going to give us some unpredictability when it comes to our finances. This is going to make things a bit more unexpected when it comes to our material possessions, what we own, what we value. Uranus is a generational planet, so you might not feel this shift right away because it's quite far away. However, if you are a Gemini or a Taurus, or you have a Gemini and Taurus placements, let me know how you feel this shift on the 8th. Let me know what ends up happening for you. On November 9th, we have Mercury retrograde beginning in the sign of Sagittarius. So this is quite interesting. This is going to be a bit of a blunt Mercury retrograde. It's going to be a bit of a messy Mercury retrograde. Mercury is uncomfortable in the sign of Sagittarius. Keep this in mind. This can still be fun. Okay, I do want to point this out. This Mercury retrograde can still be quite fun. However, just know that some people might not think before they speak. It could feel a bit more difficult to communicate what you want to get across. This Mercury retrograde is taking place from November 9th to the 29th, and it's going to be in the sign of Sagittarius. It will retrograde back into Scorpio on November 19th, and it's going to start at 6 degrees of Sagittarius and end at 20 degrees of Scorpio. The Mercury retrograde does end on November 29th. Now, what's really good to take note of with this retrograde is Mercury retrogrades are a time to slow down. It's a time for us to really reflect on the past. It's a time for us to edit and revise any projects that you have. This is not the time to launch something new. This time period is known for exes coming back because everyone is in this nostalgic, reflective stage. So I do want to manage your expectations with this because yes, you can have this opportunity to connect with an ex and talk things through. However, I do not recommend to commit to an ex or a new relationship during this time. This is because you might change your mind by the end of this retrograde. More things are going to come to light, especially with the Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, because secrets can be revealed during this time. And people are going to just be very blunt and honest, which is great. However, some feelings can get hurt. With this Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, this is actually a great time to travel to somewhere that you've been to or to really reflect on what you want to study more of. Is there a course that you still want to finish? Is there something that you want to do to get back in touch with your spirituality? Is there something that you want to commit to in terms of your growth? And what does that look like for you? Whereas when Mercury retrogrades back into Scorpio on November 19th, this will be a time where we're really reflecting more on the healing work we're still doing. People can be a bit more moody. It could feel as though it's a bit harder to communicate in terms of what you fully feel and express. It could feel as though you're trying to figure out something from the past that's still kind of painful for you. Yet what I really do love about Mercury retrogrades are they're really good times to reconnect with old friends. They're really good times to really see how far you've grown, and it's okay to be nostalgic during this time. It's actually quite lovely, and it can really help you just reflect more on where you need to align to your path in life. What does this look like for you? And what from the past are you still holding on to? May this be grief? May this be resentment? And how can you let go of this? So yes, this will be a messier Mercury retrograde. This will be a bit more of a dramatic Mercury retrograde, especially with Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. So again, try not to have expectations around an ex. Try not to have expectations on how someone's going to react to a certain situation. Try to detach from that outcome and really come from a place of curiosity. That's going to help you so much more in terms of this energy. Also, Mercury retrogrades are a time when technology can go haywire. You could just feel like there's a lot of delays at work. You could feel a bit frustrated in terms of communication. You could feel like it's harder to get a message across to a manager or a coworker. Be sure to double check your emails. Be sure to check your tone. That is super, super important with this retrograde. Again, I really believe this Mercury retrograde, yes, will be messy. However, I do feel like November's astrology is still a lot lighter than, let's say, September's astrology with eclipse season, because that was a very intense eclipse season. So we do need Mercury retrogrades. We need times to slow down, to rest, to recharge. So this is your excuse for that. If you haven't watched your Mercury retrograde horoscope, which is in your November horoscope, you can go check that out in the VIP membership. I'll leave a link to that down below. And if you made it this far in the video, please like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. It really does help me out. And comment ocean, just so that I know you made it this far into the video. Also, I want to let you know that I just have 3 spots left for birth chart readings this year. So if you want to dive deep into your birth chart and really understand your challenges, your blocks, what you can really tap into in terms of your strengths, how you can grow as a person, what that looks like for you, how you can connect deeper into your relationships, what a good relationship looks like for you specifically, and also what would help your business grow, then you could save a spot for a private session with me. I'm excited to read your birth chart. So before I dive into your tarot reading for this week, I want to dive into what you really need to consider about your business when it comes to your profit, what this looks like depending on what kind of business you run, what this looks like in terms of what works for you specifically based on your energy, and how this can differ from other businesses, other coaches, other astrologers, other creatives, other people in business, because what's unique about your birth chart is what sets you apart from everyone else. So what a lot of people don't consider when running a business, especially in the first few years of business, is when they see a coach or a mentor talk about how much money they're making. A lot of the time, we're not really seeing the expenses that business has, okay? And this is where people can get trapped. This is where people can fall for people who just talk about, okay, I made 10K months or 100K months. But if their expenses are more than that, if their expenses are, let's say, 10K, and they're making, let's say, 11K, they only made 1K of profit. So when we consider this, this is really pivotal when it comes to learning from a mentor or a coach that has a business that is growing, that has a business that is making some profit. If you consider big corporations such as Netflix, for example, it's very likely they had a lot of debt before they started to make a profit. Because in the first few years of your business, it can be quite difficult to make a profit, or maybe you are making some profit, but maybe it's not as much as you'd like. As someone who's worked for themselves for over 10 years running my own business, I will tell you that yes, there are certain years where I made a lot more profit, and then there's some years where I was at a loss. And that's okay. That's totally, totally okay. But I don't want you to fall for certain coaches or mentors that are only talking about money. Yes, I think it's good to be transparent about finances. I think it's very great to get a better sense of what money someone is making in their business. However, that should not be the thing that makes you decide to hire someone. Because if you only care about how much they're making and you think you're going to make that much money by hiring them, let me just tell you, your energy is very, very different in comparison. Because yes, you can learn from someone, you always can take away something from someone, but the way your birth chart makes money and the way that someone else's birth chart makes money is completely different. Okay, and I want to preface this: to find a mentor or coach that really understands where you're coming from, that really understands your unique energy, what you can tap into in terms of your strengths, what you can tap into based on your birth chart in terms of your blind spots, to uncover, okay, why am I self-sabotaging certain areas? Or why am I not promoting my services as much as I'd like? Or how can I overcome this fear of being seen, which I've seen with so many of my mentees that I help and guide through, because that is honestly very pivotal and important. Because yes, you can get all the strategy you want, but if you are not doing the energetic work and the mindset work to get to where you want to go, you're not going to be able to receive the money you want. You're not going to be able to receive the clients you want. I'm going to use myself as an example. So at the beginning of my business, I was really working to get seen. I was really working towards getting my videos to go viral, or just trying to get more people to pay attention to my work. However, I have Chiron in Leo. Yes, I'm a Leo sun, and one of my gifts and strengths is being seen. However, because I have Chiron in Leo, it took me quite a few years to heal through my fear of being seen. I worked with numerous coaches to really uncover how to do this and how to tap into my birth chart to really share more vulnerable information, to share, okay, how can I communicate in a very authentic way? How can I still be myself online? How can I let go of this fear of being judged, which a lot of people have? And how can I just produce content, right? Because sometimes we feel this resistance towards that. Yet, let's say you do not have any fire placements in your birth chart. Let's say you have more of an earth dominant chart, or you have a more water dominant chart. This is something to consider, because the way you do business is going to be so different than how another person does it. And if I'm working with a fire sign in my Boldest You mentorship, I've seen them get very seen in terms of their social media strategy, in terms of putting themselves online with my support and help, and what would work best in terms of their content based on their birth chart. Yet I wouldn't recommend this specifically if you have a very earth dominant or water dominant chart, because then you need a different strategy in doing business. Okay, so try not to force yourself into a role if you know deep down it's not actually what you want to be doing. I've seen this time and time again. What works for someone might not work for you. And again, it also depends on the aspects in your birth chart. It depends on how the planets are communicating with one another. It depends on your chart ruler. It depends on so many factors in your birth chart. For me specifically, I remember I had this idea of my most viral TikTok actually almost 2 years before I posted it. So that is the TikTok of me just calling someone up and talking to the signs as my friends. And it makes perfect sense with my birth chart if you look at my birth chart. However, I had this idea, but I still had this fear because I knew it was going to go viral. I knew I would get a lot of attention, and that scared me. That really, really did scare me. So it took me a lot of healing work to uncover my blocks and understand, okay, I need to put this out there. I need to take a chance. I need to really help someone through what they're going through astrology, because I know that's my destiny. I know that's my calling. I know I'm really good at it. I know I can help so many people. And I'm so grateful at that time that I did hire a coach throughout that process to help me get to where I want to go. I will also mention, based on your birth chart, you could work a lot better with a one-on-one mentor depending on what placements you have in your birth chart. Sometimes you could work better in a group setting, and sometimes you could work better one-on-one, depending on the accountability you need. So listen to your intuition on this. Listen to what you really need in terms of that support and growth for your business, because if you know that you need one-on-one support and you feel unseen in a group setting, lean into your intuition and message that mentor or coach you want to work with. If you currently have a spiritual wellness business or a creative business and you want support and help based on your birth chart to really understand how to grow your business in a more stable way, then I am relaunching my Boldest You mentorship. This is honestly one of my most life-changing programs. This mentorship is a one-on-one private mentorship with me where we go through your birth chart. We also go through your business strategy, your brand strategy, your social media strategy, but also the mindset work and the energetic work you need to get to where you want to go for your goals. I'm now accepting new applications for 2026. So if you feel that call that you need that help and support, feel free to message me any questions. You can also find the application link down below, and I can't wait to help you grow your business. All right, let's get into your tarot reading for this week. So the first card out is the Six of Pentacles. So there's something here, especially at the beginning of the week, where you feel like you could be overgiving in a situation. You could feel like you're not receiving what you want. May this be financially, may this be materially, maybe someone's not showing the actions that align to their words, and you're feeling a bit frustrated by this. I feel like you're trying to balance out the scales in a relationship, or you can feel like you're being taken advantage of in a certain relationship. This could also look like feeling taken for granted. This can feel frustrating, I will say that. However, the next card out is the King of Pentacles. So this is you knowing your worth. This is you standing up for yourself, which I love. This is you feeling more empowered and seeing, okay, no, I can do this. I can grow. I can feel rich. I can feel abundant. No matter what your income is, you can feel stable and grounded within yourself. Take time for yourself to really feel secure on your own. That's going to help you feel more in an empowered state. So I love this for you. I do feel like you're getting into a situation where you're seeing how far you've come. You're standing your ground. You're having some communication around this, but you're also setting yourself up for the future. The next card out is the Six of Cups, which I love. This is an energy of nostalgia. This makes so much sense with the Mercury Retrograde beginning this week. This feels very much like this lustful energy of the past. This feels as though you're getting more of this self-care this week. You connect with someone that helps you remember certain memories from your childhood, or you could just be connecting to your inner child this week that feels more safe, that feels more nourishing. I love this energy for you. I think this is one of my favorite cards in the deck because it's more sentimental. It feels more sweet and caring. And I feel like you're gonna just feel more emotionally enriched by the end of this week. So the challenge this week is the Lovers card. I see this as there's a choice and decision you need to make this week, and it's a bit tricky, it's a bit difficult. This could be around a relationship, yet it doesn't necessarily have to be about a relationship. Keep this in mind, but I see you coming together with a person, and maybe you're also trying to come back home to yourself. Maybe perhaps you're trying to pace yourself and realize, okay, how can I better take care of myself? Can I give myself more time alone? Can I give myself some grace? Can I really take care of myself and hype myself up? But I really see you at the end of this week making a decision about a certain person. And again, this could be a romantic relationship, business partnership, or friendship. I asked what would help us overcome this challenge, and we have the Five of Wands. So there's something here where you could get very angry or upset about a certain situation. I will say, try not to take your anger out on anyone, but I do feel like you need to express your anger. You have to express this, let it out. May this be screaming into a pillow. May this be journaling it out. May this be doing a manifestation ritual. May this be just letting go of what is pent up within you. So this is huge for this week. I feel like there can be something that occurs specifically with a friend, but I want you to take a step back and realize, okay, in what ways did I not set proper boundaries? That is what I'm hearing. How can you remind yourself that boundaries are super important for you? Sometimes we have to remind ourselves that anger is here when a boundary is crossed. So remind yourself of this, but I really see you needing to express what is pent up within you. Your oracle cards this week it is within reach. So whatever you're trying to manifest, whatever you're trying to do, just know that it's close by. I love this card. This is such a beautiful reminder. Just know that you will receive it. Feel like it's already happened, because that's when things are going to come together. You also got plant a seed and wait, which I love. So don't rush the process during the Mercury retrograde. Really just know that it might take some time, and that's okay. This is the time to set intentions. You also got take a field trip, which I love. So if you can go out into nature, if you can go to a park, if you can go for a hike, this is beautiful energy for the full moon in Taurus, by the way. If you can get out into nature, that's going to feel so healing for you to do. So I really hope this helped, friend. Let me know in the comments what ends up happening for you. If you're excited for this full moon in Taurus, if you're excited for this Mercury retrograde, I'll leave a link to your VIP horoscopes for November with your Mercury retrograde horoscopes in them as well. If you want to do a money manifestation during the full moon in Taurus with the Moon Sign Creative Community, I'll leave a link to that down below as well. Feel free to also reach out to me if you have any questions on the Boldest You mentorship. I'll leave the application for that down below. And thank you so much for watching, friend. Just remember, the universe has your back. And with peace and love, take care.